Hello all, this is the fourth and final section on the 18th century. Just some finish up some neoclassical odds and ends, and then examples from mostly film and television and some theater of 18th century costuming, both neoclassical and rococo. Enjoy. So accessories, nothing real new. Parasols, a new product you can see over there on the far right, popular when walking outside on a sunny day. Excuse me, so not rain covering. Fans, tall, slender canes, little dogs are actually a good accessory, and large fur muffs. Some of the most distinctive accessories were headdresses and hairstyles. We have two categories, chapeaus and bonnets. A bonnet, also called a pouf, soft and brimless, like the mob cap. You see at the top there, just these sort of, well, all four pictures rather. You can trim them in lace, ribbon, pearls, and fine jewels. Garlands and plumes and so forth. And because of the hairstyles, they're really good at shaping around these crazy hairstyles of the period, which we will get to in a minute. Chapeaus were also known as parasol hats because they would protect you from the sun, decorated with plumes, lots of ribbons. The crown of the hats grew taller as hairstyles got higher and higher. You can see in the mid part, this one right here, massive hat. You could use it as a boat. There, and this one with these four ribbons here. Now, because of these hairstyles and hats, you needed a really big outdoor cowl. This is the calash, usually a hooped cowl, hoop sewn into the fabric and large enough to cover the hairstyles. And let's talk about the hairstyles. As we get into the height of French aristocratic excesses, they become more and more elaborate, kind of, pardon my French, like a pissing contest. Well, you got a big hairstyle? Mine's bigger. We have natural hair, we have wigs, we have French braids and chignon knots. We have curls starched and shaped with special hairstyling tools. Just a torture on natural hair with some extensions. Marie Antoinette, wigs, higher, more outlandish. You start to see these large shaped curls becoming huge, as in the upper right. And then the poufs and chapeaus almost as vestigial extensions of the hairpiece. Some of them were so big they had springs inside to adjust the height and were stuffed with fabric or cork. They reached their height in the 1780s when you would actually have little scenes and objects perched on top of the wigs. These are not satire. The one, particularly in the center of the boat, is an actual hairstyle. The others as well, which have scenes, hearts, scenes of, I believe, this woman here. It's a theater. These are not exaggerations. It's not satire, as I said. In the late 1780s, people started saying, that's enough. Let's get sensible, please. And we see a female version of the hedgehog, which is soft frizz curls framing the face and with some long trailing strands. Makeup. At the time, poor sanitation, growing population, there was an outbreak of smallpox, which scars the skin, particularly on the face. So if you had smallpox, and there's a good chance you could have, you want heavy makeup if you were in the aristocracy. Usually a foundation was a white cream made of mixing white flakes of lead mixed with perfume. Now, these did have a few side effects like headache, nausea, dizziness, blindness, paralysis, and death, but that's okay. You look pretty good. Then you have a rouge consisting of white lead, carmine, which is made up of ground-up beetles, and perfume. You mix this with plaster of Paris and you create a stick. Then you can moisten it with damp pieces of wool and apply it to the cheeks, lips, and as eye makeup. So it's kind of like early lipstick. Beauty marks. Finally, to hide particularly bad scars, beauty marks were applied. Originally, what they were little spots of black taffeta applied with tree gum. Over time, you would see shapes. This on the right, I think, is a bit of exaggeration. I doubt if there's a carrot-shaped beauty mark, but there were stars and moons, at the height of the fad. Maybe some, I don't know if that's enough. So you can see here patches are of every cut for pimples or for scars. Here's all the wandering planet signs and some of the fixed stars already come to make them stick. They need no other sky. Let's look at some specialty costumes. We'll do this quickly. Most Army personnel wore a frock coat of some kind known as a regimental coat with epaulets on the shoulder to show rank. Often, if you're an officer, you wear a sash. The lapels were turned back to reveal Brandenburg buttons and buttonholes. This is a very distinctive color. This is a proprietary color, I think even to this day. A distinctive wool coats in a color called madder red that can only be worn by the British officers, or British soldiers, not just officers. So madder red, the thin red line of the British Army. Like I said, is a proprietary color, I think, made in India, I want to say. Infantrymen wore a grenadier cap. You see a waistcoat, knee breeches with a fall front, and also attached to a baldric or cartridge strap was a cartouche, a leather box for holding ammo. And then you wore a form of spatterdashes called gaiters or spats. You can see here. So we start to see the word spats come in, which cover tightly over their shoes or boots. American Continental soldiers follow the same procedure with regimental colors. So pretty simple. You can see he's got his spats on as well. Officers wear tricorn hat where they're decorated with a cockade to denote rank. Also rank denoted by epaulets. Usually double-breasted, closed. Bottom of the coat could be fastened to buttons in the back to keep them out of the way when riding. So very fashionable. You can see this gentleman saluting General Washington here, right? How these are buttoned right there for riding. Pirates! Gotta have some pirates. Just for a little bit, here we see a pirate, a Johnny Depp pirate. You can see his waistcoat is unbuttoned and tucked under a wide leather belt. Breeches are tucked into turned-down leather boots, as you can see. So sort of cavalier-like, cavalier fashion. Often a dark frock coat. You may have, here we see an older fashion, Geoffrey Rush in those movies. A longer waistcoat. Very baggy breeches here, you can see. Interesting thing is under the belt of baldric, particularly if you're doing a fiction, you'll have a tattered sailcloth wrapped around the waist, which represents the sailcloth of a particularly prized ship that was taken by the pirate. One distinctive bit of wear, we bring this up, is the pirate shirt, which is a loose cotton shirt with lacings at the neck, lapel-like collar, and ruching gathered at the wrist. So you see here, here's Anne Bonny at the bottom with a wide floppy hat with a panache or a tricorn, maybe a headscarf under the hat. You can see usually keep the hair from getting encrusted with sea salt and sunstroke. And then, of course, you always have a brace of pistols. Brace means two. Okay, some quick examples. George Washington put in here. George Washington was a clothes horse. He firmly believed that if you were going to be a soldier, you needed to look the part. No matter how ragtag his army was, he was going to be dressed to the nines, well-tailored, looking perfect. So this is a cultivated look by the general. And it worked. I mean, we're a country, aren't we? Marie Antoinette, of course. This is from the movie by Sofia Coppola. You can see the panniers, the silly wigs, even on men. Here we see Marie Antoinette in part of her, she's in a robe à l'anglaise, robe polonaise. Here she is in her shepherdess era there with those sort of polonaise robes, kind of loosen at the corsets. They played like they're shepherdesses. Some scenes here. Here's an excellent example of Watteau pleating. So look at this. Chintz. A Reading coat gown. Waistcoat with Brandenburg pleats. And I don't know why this little girl is here, just so that they had to wear that stuff too. Again, some robe a la polonaise. And then down here you can see the shoes, types of shoes. So there you go. George III also in various ways. You can see he has the bagwig right here. He's in his frock coat. He's in his regimental coat right there. Here's from the movie. You can see the hedgehog. Probably wide panniers there on Helen Mirren. The Patriot, let's go to America here and see. We can see Jolie Richardson, I think, in a stomacher, simple gown. And then, of course, frock coats galore with long, which showed this is an older gentleman because he has the longer waistcoat. Legend of Sleepy Hollow, nice cravats I wanted to show there. Interesting gown, à l'anglaise, striped. Of course, 1776. When you do it, you got to have the waistcoat frock coat breeches all the time. Hamilton, duh, same, Natch. Here are the women that have very stiff stomachers. You can see in those sort of à l'anglaise robes with that popping out. And of course, the dancers wore underwear because they had to dance. Fun fact, the costume designer of this, who won a Tony, I didn't go to the school at the same time, but he went to my alma mater of North Carolina School of the Arts. Yay, School of the Arts. Outlander, I also like to call this costume porn. The designer Terry Dressbach has her own fan club, almost as popular as the leads of the show. So here, very, very low-cut dress for Claire there with the sort of robe à la Francaise sleeves, the sabot sleeves. Of course, that's Scottish kilt, but he's got a very decorated. So this is early, so that would be a justacore. Here we are, chinoiserie, or chintz overskirt, beautifully, beautifully constructed out of period costume or period material, as always. So, of course, and a redding coat design there. And then this is a picture, I don't think it's clear, of an understudy showing the panniers underneath a lot of the gowns here. So, and constructed by extremely talented costume crew. Poldark, the lower class version here, you can see this is towards the end of the 18th century. It was a series on PBS. Ross Poldark from Cornwall, coming back from the American Wars, wearing his long frock coat, kind of drab vest, tricorn hat, a little shabby. His wife, I forgot her name. Demelza. Yes, it was Demelza there. She's at work, so she's got her apron tucked into a belt. Very simple, uncorseted. Here are some corseted women in a redding coat design there. Nice chapeau with a big bow here. Nice redding coat there. Traveling gown. And then there's the men marching to work in their frock coats there. And that's all the examples. This concludes Part D, and it concludes the lecture on the 18th century. I hope it was informative. Next up in Section 4 is the Empire/Regency era. See you then.